It was a quiet evening in Ouagadougou. The city, though often restless, seemed to breathe in peace for a rare moment. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, known across Burkina Faso as both a soldier and a symbol of resilience, had returned from a long day of meetings. His wife, the woman who knew him not as a leader but as a husband and confidant, was at home preparing dinner. Neither of them had the slightest idea that a group of men, armed with weapons and desperation, were about to strike at the very heart of his life. The kidnappers believed they had found the perfect pressure point. Traoré was admired by many, feared by some, but to them, he was still a man with vulnerabilities. His wife was his supposed weakness. By taking her, they thought they could manipulate him, force his hand, bend his will, and possibly even topple his authority. It was a cold calculation, and they carried it out with precision. That night, as she stepped outside to take a phone call, the men struck. Within seconds, she was forced into a waiting vehicle, blindfolded, and driven away under the cover of darkness. News of the abduction reached Traoré within the hour. The message was clear and direct: surrender certain military outposts, release captured insurgents, and publicly admit defeat, or lose his wife forever. For any ordinary man, it was a nightmare beyond comprehension. For a leader, it was an impossible choice between duty and love. His advisors expected him to waver, to hesitate, maybe even to secretly negotiate. But Traoré's reaction stunned them. Instead of panic, his eyes narrowed with focus. His voice was calm but firm. They believe they have taken my strength. In truth, they have awakened it. Rather than bowing to their demands, Traoré immediately began preparing a counter-operation. He refused to broadcast his intentions, knowing that secrecy was his greatest weapon. A small team of elite soldiers was assembled, men and women who had fought by his side before, who trusted him not just as a commander but as a brother in arms. Together, they studied the kidnappers' movements, traced their communication signals, and pinpointed a hideout on the outskirts of the city. The plan was risky, the window of opportunity slim, but Traoré was resolute. What set his approach apart was not brute force but strategy. Instead of storming in recklessly, he crafted a trap within a trap. He spread false information suggesting he was preparing to meet the kidnappers' demands, all while maneuvering his team into position. The kidnappers, confident and arrogant, never suspected that they were being watched every step of the way. They believed the captain would walk into their hands broken and desperate. Instead, he was drawing them closer to their downfall. The night of the operation was tense. Darkness cloaked the city as Traoré's convoy moved silently through back roads. Headlights dimmed. His heart pounded not from fear but from determination. Every moment mattered, not just for his wife's life, but for the message it would send to his people and his enemies alike. At the hideout, the kidnappers were celebrating prematurely. They imagined themselves victorious, already discussing how to divide the ransom of power they expected. But that illusion shattered in an instant when Traoré and his team struck. The silence of the night erupted into chaos. Shouts, gunfire, and the roar of engines filled the air. The kidnappers, caught completely off guard, scrambled in confusion. Their confidence crumbled as they realized too late that the man they had tried to break was standing right before them, unyielding. In the midst of the clash, Traoré pushed forward. His focus was singular: to reach his wife. The kidnappers tried to use her as a shield, thinking it would paralyze him. But instead of hesitation, they saw resolve in his eyes. With a calculated maneuver, his team neutralized the guards, creating an opening. Traoré himself stepped forward, confronting the leader of the kidnappers face to face. For a moment, the tension was unbearable. The kidnapper pressed a weapon against a temple, shouting threats. But Traoré, steady as a rock, spoke only one sentence: "If you harm her, you will not leave this place alive." Something in his voice broke the man's will. Perhaps it was the certainty, perhaps the weight of the captain's presence. Whatever it was, the hesitation was enough. In a swift move, his soldiers disarmed the leader, and Traoré pulled his wife into his arms. The danger had not fully passed, but in that embrace, a victory larger than any battle was won. Tears filled her eyes, but so did pride. She had always known him as a strong man, but now she saw a leader whose courage was anchored in love. By dawn, the kidnappers were in custody, their plot shattered. News of the rescue spread across Burkina Faso like wildfire. People poured into the streets, not just to celebrate the safety of their leaders, wife, but to honor the courage and intelligence that had turned despair into triumph. For many, it was proof that their captain was more than a soldier. He was a protector, a man who could not be broken, even when attacked at his core. Traoré addressed his nation later that day. He did not boast of his victory, nor did he dwell on the fear of the night before. Instead, he spoke about resilience, about how enemies often mistake love for weakness, when in truth, it is the greatest source of strength. His words echoed across the land, reaching farmers in distant villages and soldiers on the front lines alike. They thought they could shatter me by striking at my family. But family is not a chain to bind us. It is the fire that makes us unstoppable. The attempted abduction, though terrifying, had an unexpected effect. It strengthened the unity of the people. They saw in their leader a reflection of their own struggles, the constant battle to protect loved ones in a world full of threats. His wife, once a private figure, became a quiet symbol of resilience as well, standing proudly beside him in public appearances, reminding everyone that behind every act of courage is a story of love. As weeks passed, the failed kidnapping became less a tale of danger and more a legend of defiance. Children whispered about it at night. Parents retold it as a lesson in bravery, and soldiers carried it as inspiration into their missions. For Traoré, it was never about glory. It was about showing that no force, however ruthless, could break the bond between a leader and his people, between a husband and his wife. In the end, what was meant to weaken him only made him stronger. What was meant to silence him gave him a louder voice. And what was meant to destroy the spirit of a nation instead ignited it with renewed hope. Because in that one night, when darkness tried to claim victory, Captain Ibrahim Traoré proved that true strength is not found in weapons or power, but in the unyielding courage to protect what we love, no matter the cost.